Within the first 10 pages, I knew that it was going to be the inspiration for this work of art.
My name is Kayneisha Holloway. The painting is called Among Our Grief, We Find Ourselves in a New Light. The author that inspired this piece was Hanif Abdurraqib. The book, They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. And there's a lot of musical themes in that book, but also a lot of talk about grief and childhood that I could so relate with. That's what inspired a lot of things that goes on in this painting. The painting takes place in Poindexter Village, which is the apartment complex I grew up in. The neighbors took care of each other. The neighborhood was really like a village. There was a lot of cookouts, a lot of gatherings, kids running in and out of the house. And then around it are some of the buildings that I remember, like the OSU Hospital East, Champion Middle School before it was torn down and rebuilt. The Five Brothers that I actually helped paint a mural on. And then here's Union Grove Baptist Church. That's a church I went to growing up. And then East Pilgrim was the school. Another element that inspired this piece was Amina Robinson's work. She's also from Poindexter. I like how she layered the buildings in her painting, Poindexter Village. So I wanted to mimic that in this painting as well. When I think of purple, I think of Prince, but I also think of dreams and memories. So the person here is supposed to represent me. She's actually looking in a mirror above her console table with her record player and a light. The LED light is shining up and it's kind of shining or projecting some of the memories that I have there. It's like speaking to grief. So the apartments are no longer there and I cried a lot. Placemaking and grief. I think that's another theme that shows up in this piece too as I was working. So the subject here is reaching into the mirror and opening the door. It invites the viewer in, but also I have a lot of dreams about my bedroom in Poindexter. I remember looking outside of the window. I remember the entire layout of the house. So this not only invites the viewer into like what's going on, but it activates the piece. So this is like actively going back into your memory instead of just like remembering it in your head. It's like actually stepping into the place that once was.
I'm Kate Morgan. This is my piece, Core, inspired by Porochista Khakpour's book, Brown Album, which talked about the cultural limitations and having to choose the different sides that you can show of yourself, being really stuck in old ways. One of my favorite inspirations is Egyptian art, and there's always the figure stepping forward, which is the hardest part of trying to separate yourself from those obligations and traditions and be yourself. So normally I do two-dimensional work, a mixture of drawing, painting, and collage, and that is my comfort zone. This was kind of an opportunity for me to kind of break out of my mold and the stereotypes of my work, as it were. I love figures, that's what I do. And they always have kind of a gold moon, kind of originally inspired by Byzantine art and very telling for many cultures. I wanted it to look old because there's a lot of rigidity in like a lot of those traditions. They're traditions because they're traditions, they just keep getting done. They're so restrictive. So I wanted it to be heavy and I wanted people to feel the weight of it, kind of keeping you back. But then there's a softer element. I wanted to add the fiber and a lot of really bright color, which I am not known for, just to show there's a new energy there.
My name is Margarita Vilshanetskaya. My piece is called Ominous Light, and it was inspired by thriller author Nick Petrie's The Price You Pay. The first time I actually saw the cover art for this, there were three elements that really struck me. Obviously the light that came through the landscape, the vivid color, and then this kind of eeriness to what the viewer was seeing, from like footsteps going up to the barn, to the way the light was shining through. I titled it Ominous Light because it kind of gave that dramatic feel for what the story is, but I also hope that this piece kind of shows the main protagonist, Peter Ash, the potential hope for our protagonist as well. This piece is made of cut plexiglass with transparent vinyl and fiber. So I am primarily a fiber artist, but I love working big now. A lot of engagement with my viewers, very tactile work. So the series that I'm working on right now now, people are actually able to touch the work. So I love the tactile nature of the work that I do, and this just adds a whole other layer to my practice, I feel.
Would you recommend that people touch this one?
No. I would not recommend it. Obviously the fingerprints, you'll see them coming through. But yeah, if you see my fiber work in the wild, you'll most likely be able to touch it.
I'm Kenya Davis, and this is my art piece, Vision of Soledad, and it was inspired by Kennedy Ryan's latest novel, This Could Be Us. It's not like traditional romance novels because it centers around female empowerment and the main character being in charge of her own destiny and putting herself first. And my piece focuses on the main character, Soledad. Life is kind of pulled out the rug from underneath her, so to speak, and so she was forced to figure out how she was going to provide for her family, how she was going to recover from the trauma and move forward. There are faces that represent her friends that supported her. There is a Puerto Rican flag there. Her mother was Puerto Rican and African American, so you'll notice the flag also has kente cloth on the stripes. I tried to wed together the Puerto Rican influence as well as the African American influence. There's also script writing in there, which represents the diary that her mom left her. Her mom passed away. There are flowers that represent jasmine because that was the fragrance that she always wore. There's also utensils there because she knew how to cook Puerto Rican food. That was one of the things that she kind of used to help propel her forward. There's also a fist and the female symbol with the circle and the crossbar that represents feminism and empowerment and strength. And there's also puzzle pieces and gears because in the story there are characters that are neurodivergent, and all of these symbols, and there's butterflies in there as well that symbolize the metamorphosis, the change that she went through from the beginning of the story to the end. And so all of these things work together to bring an illustration of a beautiful story.
My name is Catherine Bell Smith, and the title of my piece is Restitution. It's based on the book When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. It's a story that takes place in modern-day Chicago, but the characters are creatures of folklore. The main character, he has to partner up with some of these creatures like the Leshy, who is a forest guardian. I'm an environmental artist and I use natural materials. So the overlapping of her magical creatures of nature and my materials I thought was like superb. So I pulled out certain elements like the fern flower, which only blooms once a year on the summer solstice, and it only lasts for 24 hours, but it has magical powers. The white color of bones, because bones is a really prevalent image that she uses. The iconic halo of Catholicism, and then ashes, which represent purification and sacrifice. There's red crystal beads, actually from Poland, and they represent drops of blood because blood is shed in this book. There's also sugar, which is represented by sand in this piece. That's the scent of Demeter's fear. They're all presented on this twisted branches of a huckleberry bush that I stripped the bark from and revealed the bare bones of the wood. So that's another clue about bones in the book. There's also a little subtle element, and that's the stain on the base. It's a port wine stain, which is present on the Knights of the Holy Order when they pull the sword from their back. Their hands turn red, like port wine stain. So all of those elements I sort of pulled out of the book, but I also wanted them to be subtle. They could stand alone, even if you hadn't read the book. Is the piece still, viable on its own merit while I included those elements? And I hopefully I achieved that.